Well, it was high time we had this episode. It's time for us to banish the dark forces of Satan and finally commit to an episode that is entirely gluten-free. And this is surely our biggest ever flotilla of chefs. We've got Bettina Campolucci Bordi. She's world-renowned for her wholesome, colourful and internationally inspired cooking. For her, the benefits and possibilities of plant-based cooking knows no bounds. She's published 2 cookbooks, Happy Food and 7-Day Vegan Challenge, with her 3rd and most recent book, Celebrate. Jane Devonshire was crowned MasterChef 2016 champion in the 12th series of the hugely popular BBC One series. So many questions I want to ask you about that. Jane regularly demonstrates at cookery shows around the country and abroad, including The Good Food Show. Her first book, Hassle-Free, Gluten-Free, was published in 2018, and her second, Vegetarian Hassle-Free, Gluten-Free, was published in 2020. Amy Lanza is a returning guest on the Vegan Life podcast. Quite an intense recording last time with a very excitable Daniel jumping up and down on the sofa. I'm hoping it's going to be a little more sedate this time. She's the plant-based recipe developer, food and content creator, food stylist and photographer behind Nourishing Amy. She's got 2 ebooks full of exclusive plant-based recipes to nourish you daily, and her work has been featured on the front covers of Vegan Life magazine and Plant-Based magazine. And Irina Linovich has also been on the show before. She's previously worked for Vogue Ukraine as the international producer, which is very cool, and is currently rocking it very stylishly in pajamas because she didn't know that we were going to have a camera on her. But she looks amazing. You look amazing. I don't know how you do that. When I'm in my pajamas, I just look like something the social services have come to collect. Anyway, she's put her style background into creating the stylish and urban restaurant Holy Carrot. The menu is globally inspired and is very much led by the best seasonal organic British produce. Welcome all of you. Thank you so much for doing this. I'm very excited, and I do feel that I've been wanting to make this episode for a long time because as a vegan, my principal food that I consume is gluten. So I kind of feel for the celiacs, and I've kind of wondered if it's even possible to have a gluten-free vegan diet. And I mean, you're now going to tell me that, yes, of course you can, and stop being so ridiculous. The first question, which we are asking every episode now, is what's the best vegan food you've eaten recently? Amy, let's start with you.
So I actually did go to Holy Carrot.
Did you? I'm dying to go.
I did. So actually to have you on here is really cool. I loved it. I loved the space inside. It was amazing. It's really light and bright and airy. And the food, I could have had everything on there. It's all really fresh. I shared the sushi rolls, like the platter of sushi rolls. They were delicious. And then we also shared a big, might have been the burrito, and it was also delicious, like loads of fresh veg, which is my kind of food, and yeah, I loved it there.
Oh, awesome.
Thanks very much. I'm so happy to hear that. It's good that I didn't run away at the beginning. So
yeah, exactly.
Now I can be so proud of all our team that is doing this.
Irina, am I right in thinking you're doing a vegan afternoon tea there now?
Yeah, we're doing a vegan afternoon tea, and we just 2 days ago we finished doing a new shoot for Christmas. Really beautiful. It was so many people involved, and yeah, it was amazing. And I actually found my favorite new dish there. So it was Wellington. We created with Club Culture Temper. Two young guys that come to us and say, listen, we want to do something with Holy Carrot, and we decided to do Wellington, and it was really, really nice, and it will be a new Christmas dish, so it's my favorite.
I think they might be coming on the podcast soon, and I'm wondering how I can possibly walk back from my traditional position on tempeh, which is that it's the work of the devil.
That's what was, the guys was, calling me for 3 months and writing me on Instagram, and our team, they were the chef, everybody, my partner Jamie, that he said, tempeh is something not nice, and I said, let's try, let's just try it. And actually, the texture, because they do it themselves, they don't buy it and then repack it. They do it themselves. It's all organic. It's made in UK. It's so good quality. And, it's with a gravy, with everything, it's so nice. So unfortunately, we're still working to make it gluten-free because puff pastry is a problem. But I think we have such an amazing team of the chefs here that maybe give us some secret advice today how to make Wellington puff pastry gluten-free.
Bettina, what about you?
Yes.
What's the best thing you've eaten lately?
Have you heard of Colette's? It's like the new tender stem of cauliflower. So it's these, they look like tender stems, but they're little cauliflowers. So they're called Colette's. They are my new little favorite thing. So I tempuraed them and covered them in gochujang, which was amazing. So it's like a waste-free thing as well, because you eat the whole thing. Often with cauliflower, people waste quite a lot. So and it's quite big, so you sort of have to cook a lot of dishes.
I just gnaw on the stalk raw in the garden like a dog on a bone.
You can also do that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I know my place. Jane, what's the best thing you've eaten lately?
Actually, my daughter. We went round.
You ate your daughter? Okay.
Yeah, oh my God, that was very vegan of me, daughter. We went to dinner to her house. She's the reason why I first started cooking lots of vegetarian and vegan food, because I think they're all teenagers, young adults or whatever, and they bring home people who are vegan or vegetarian, or she's vegetarian now. So you have to expand your repertoire. And she cooked this most beautiful meal the other day, which is very Ottolenghi inspired and everything else. But I actually make her sausage using tempeh, pulse my tempeh, and put lots of spices and herbs into it. And she had done something very similar. She'd made almost like a Wellington. With a lovely mushroom pate and everything. So I was really interested to hear you, Irene, say that, because my veggie sausage, my vegan sausage is tempeh, and I never knew you all hated it so much. I thought it was a great ingredient.
It's only me. It's only me. And what I want to know is there some email chain that I'm not party to where you all decided to talk about tempeh? Unbelievable.
I thought it was a great ingredient.
I love it. I love it. I love tempeh. Love tempeh.
I think the guys from Club Culture, when they listen this podcast, they will be so happy that they got so many attention from the beginning.
Irina, are they bigger than me?
No.
No? Okay. Could I have them in a fight? Okay. Let's get on to questions then. Emilia has emailed to ask, what are good gluten-free cupboard staples? Irina, let's start with you.
So I think, my pantry for gluten-free is so big because almost all my family is gluten-free. So of course, what you need to have is just plain all-purpose gluten-free flour. On top of it, you need to have some binders. I like, not very popular binder, but it's really good because it's a good source of protein. It's golden linseed. It's defatted and very finely milled. So it works like a binder. So it's the last ingredient you put, to make. So you can use Sanatang gum or any other gum.
Yeah.
It's really nice to have it. I like.
So you're saying golden flaxseed is your favorite binder?
It's my favorite because it's, it's very natural. It's really, it gives nice taste, nice texture, and it's also a source of protein. So I usually try not to use only all-purpose gluten-free flour, but to add some more protein flour, like almond flour. I also like when it's a little bit defatted and very finely grounded, so the texture is nice. I like lupin bean flour. It's also unusual ingredient. I use quite a lot. We don't see it much in supermarket. I order it online, but it has 42 grams of protein per 100 gram. So for, my man's part of the family, they really love, when it's a pancake, but at the same time, you got a lot of protein in it. I think for people who are vegan and also gluten-free. It's so amazing, to have these different things in the pantry to make, really, not to forget about how much protein you get every day. Even in the food that usually non-vegan food is not protein, like a pancakes or like pasta, it's not a lot of protein in it. So I try my best to have everything in my pantry ready. So
amazing. Good suggestions there, Bettina.
My favourite flours to work with and to cook with are chickpea flour, buckwheat flour, oat flour.
Are you gluten-free generally, or?
I was gluten-free for a good 7 years, and I was gluten intolerant. But I reintroduced gluten into my life a couple of years ago. And as long as I sort of stick with small amounts and sort of with more ancient grains, I'm fine. So sort of gluten-free cooking is ingrained in my backbone. Ingrained. So I still do a lot of gluten-free. So chickpea flour is amazing. Buckwheat flour, oat flour, a good bicarbonate of soda and baking powder is really good as well. And also just things like whole foods, like a good gluten-free pasta, a selection of your favorite beans, things like that are always good to have handy, and sort of naturally gluten-free as well.
Good call. Jane, what about you?
I think because we have a gluten-free household, but also we have to be exceptionally strict because my son is a celiac. So you have to be really careful with cross-contamination and things. And so things like oats, we have to make sure they're celiac registered and things. So you've got to be very careful with some of the ingredients that you use. But my go-to staples are very similar to most people's, to be honest. We eat a lot of fresh fruit, vegetables, all the things that are naturally gluten-free, rice, gluten-free pastas. The only difference you'd see probably that mainly is when it comes to the amount of flours we have in the house, and also the ingredients that I use for baking. So I use a lot of pea protein flours. I use a lot of gluten-free oat flours, sorghum, sticky rice flours. I think that would be the biggest thing. If you looked at my cupboard, you would see 20 different flours. And the other
I
thing,
can join to your team. I don't have 20, I have 7. At least 7.
And then literally, because I'm constantly experimenting with different flours and flour blends as well. But also always, I think bicarb again is really important in gluten-free cooking.
Why? Forgive my ignorance. Why is this important?
Because when it reacts with something, particularly if you're using a yogurt or something, it causes a natural fermentation which gives you bubbles.
Right. And
it will lighten it. So if you're making a muffin, for instance, if you put your gluten-free flour in your baking powder, but then you've got a yogurt base or a buttermilk, if you put bicarb in, it causes this wonderful lightness, which obviously with gluten-free, we're always looking for something that gives you that same airiness if you're using gluten, and also takes the sandiness out of gluten-free cooking that you can sometimes get with different flours. So it's a really important ingredient. The gluten-free baking powder again. And also, my go-to is xanthan, because I try to make my cooking very, very accessible, and it's the one binding ingredient that a lot of people can use. But I've got psyllium husk, all sorts of different binding ingredients again. So mainly, I try to keep it as down to earth and normal, if that's the wrong word. I hate using that word, but
I know what you're saying.
People can find it accessible and not intimidating. I think that's what I want, is to show people that it's just good food.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter whether it's gluten-free or vegan, it's just great food.
Let's not forget, sand, as far as I know, is gluten-free.
Yes.
And most of my baking. Amy, what about you?
I think I'd have to just second everything that everyone said. I feel they've covered most of the flours, all of the kind of pantry staples, just like remembering all about whole foods. And as Bettina said, most of those are gluten-free anyway. Lots of grains like quinoa and buckwheat are gluten-free. Lots of rice. And then like loads of fresh fruit and veg, nuts, seeds, pulses, beans, all those kind of things that, as Jane was saying, you'd find in a regular kitchen anyway. Just it's things like pasta and breads that you just have to kind of be a bit more careful with and make sure you're getting the gluten-free ones, and oats, obviously.
Awesome. Okay. Liberty, this is a great question. I always love questions like this. Liberty says, what's the panel's favourite gluten-free dinner that they cook? I love a nice open question like that. Bettina, let's start with you.
Oh my gosh. You know what? I almost prefer a gluten-free pasta to a gluten pasta, to be completely honest. I think there's some amazing options out there. So I love a gluten-free pasta, big pan of it with whatever you've got. I love fridge raid meals, so anything that I've got lying around in the fridge, I call them the sad vegetables, the ones that are in the back that have been left behind. I've had the best intentions with them, but chuck those in a pan with some good olive oil, some garlic, some pasta, and then sort of bind it all together with a great sort of plant cream option. I like using oat cream or sometimes coconut cream. That's sort of my ideal meal. And those are the ones that are the most unlikely tastiest. And then you think, what did I put in there? And you scratch your head and you go,
Yeah. You're right, though. Gluten-free pasta has quite a nice kind of, quite nutty kind of texture, doesn't it?
Yes, awesome. Especially I think the Italian brands, obviously because they eat a lot of pasta in Italy, have developed some awesome options. Absolutely great.
Yeah. Jane, what about you?
I think we all love the pasta, but I like to do. I always think I should maybe put my MasterChef head on, but I'm going to say, if I'm honest, my kids love. I do a smoky paprika bean stew with like a cheesy cornbread thyme topping on the top.
Oh wow!
Which is just one of those things that you could just cut into and dip the bread in, and it's really lovely. And when you've got them all home, you just sling it in the oven and it's done. Or even a broccoli and bean, always Italian style bake with some cheese on the top. Some vegan cheese. I'm a great one for using. The vegan cream and herb cheeses, because they add such a good for pay, and I could just stick them in sauces and things and it just does it up. So when you're doing things quickly and you want to do family meals, I find things like that are just brilliant.
Good call. Amy, what about you?
I love a good kind of falafel feast meal. So and a lot of that's naturally gluten-free, naturally vegan. So like making some really yummy hummus, making maybe a couple of other dips, some really simple falafels, and finding there's some really good gluten-free like tortilla wraps at the moment. There's like really nice vegetable-based ones, which I love. And there's like sweet potato-based ones, which are really good. Just having that, and then some salad, maybe some like roasted paprika veg. And just everyone can like pick and mix and like all dig in together. So that's really like a favourite kind of family meal that we all do.
It is. I only did it once, but I did falafel kind of like as a Sunday roast. Like it was a perfect kind of vegan Sunday roast thing to actually do it at home properly with all the wraps and the fixins. And it was great.
And I'd much rather have that to a roast dinner. Roast dinners don't do it for me, but a falafel roast dinner would.
Yeah. Irina.
So I'm in Bettina's team for very, very lazy pasta, and I usually try to be zero waste. So everything I forgot to eat from the last week goes to this lazy pasta. For example, yesterday I made it. So when I have just 10 minutes maximum to cook something and I'm busy, I do it always. So I take fava bean pasta. It's gluten-free and it has really nice texture. I think it's the only one bean pasta that, feels like normal one. So I love it and cook with it a lot. I just, take already pre-cooked tomato sauce, lazy one, like from Mr. Organic, I think, roasted garlic. And I make my own, kind of bechamel sauce. So I use either the cheese that we make in Holy Carrot, smoked cheese, or something that I have in my fridge from Nettle or from Palace Culture. So any cream cheese will go that you have, any vegan cream cheese. And you mix it with plant-based milk, onion powder, garlic powder, nutritional yeast, and just mix it together. And then I put it into already hot tomato sauce, and then cover the pre-cooked for 2 minutes pasta, put it in a oven with all the vegetables I can find in the fridge. Then I finished what I was doing before, some, answer mails in 20 minutes. The pasta is ready. Everybody's happy. We didn't throw really good vegetables to garbage. So it's my lazy pasta, it's my zero waste pasta. I really love it. It's my, what I cook every week.
Fabulous.
Dinner.
Speaking of throwing away vegetables, my compost heap, I went away for a couple of weeks and I came back and there's like this 3 meter long squash plant growing out of it.
Wow.
And it's just grown from one of the seeds, but it's like taken over the garden. It's like a triffid. It's terrifying. Anyway, Anne says that my husband is gluten-free, but he isn't vegan, as we find it quite difficult to cook vegan and gluten-free, although we are trying. Oh, Anne, we feel for you. Could I have some dinner inspiration? Thank you. Gotta help a vegan. So, Jane, let's start with you.
Oh, I struggle with this to begin with, so I am on board with it. But I think once you get a handle on it, it's actually just like anything. I always say to people, I taught myself to cook gluten-free, or I taught myself to cook Asian. I've taught myself to cook vegan gluten-free now. I do use a lot of tofu and tempers and things. I blitz up temper to make sausages.
Delicious. Love it. Absolutely love it. Yeah.
I make tofu. One of my kids' favourite is I do a spicy peanut sauce with aubergine and tofu fry, and do it with rice. And so there are lots of different things. And I think how I did it was I read traditional recipes and I just replaced them, taught myself via YouTube videos or Google or whatever how to replace them with vegan alternatives. So what I knew my children love to eat, which is, say, chicken satay. When I have my vegan and the children's partners round, I then replace it and make it a vegan version. And just started off with easy things and gradually got more and more complicated. So it was a learning process for me, and you have disasters along the way, but sometimes they can be funny, and they're the ones that people always remember. I think when everything goes perfectly, but you always want to remember that time made Yorkshire biscuits instead of Yorkshire puddings or something, trying to make a vegan thing. Those are the times you remember. And I always say to people that it is just food, but it's experimentation. It's knowing what you like and then educating yourself, and just quick Google. You can find out so much.
Yeah.
And the options are so much better for both gluten and vegan food now.
Yeah.
I know when Ben was diagnosed 18 years ago, pasta was just horrendous, bread was just horrendous, whereas now we have so many more options. So I just try and embrace those as much as I can.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy, but it's very, very achievable. And actually, I think some of the best meals I've turned out recently have been my vegan, gluten-free ones. So keep in there, it's worth it.
Few people can forget my Christmas 2011 Yorkshire jawbreakers.
I'm glad it's not just me.
No, definitely not. The consensus, I mean, I've done 30 odd podcasts and the consensus is we still cannot quite yet make a good vegan Yorkshire pudding. So a gluten-free vegan Yorkshire pudding, I mean, and if you do it, please tell us.
There's a challenge.
Sounds like a challenge.
Yeah. Okay. Amy, what about you?
I would say just making simple swaps is a great place to start. So yeah, if it's a chicken-based meal, I would rather have the kind of tofu or the bean-based things, like especially chickpeas. But for a lot of people, the just straight swaps for like the meaty vegan alternatives, and they're not always gluten-free, which is the only thing, but there are some out there that are gluten-free and still have that like meaty element. So if someone's missing the meat, that's like a really good swap. But then making things with tofu rather than chicken, like things like curries, are really easy to be vegan and gluten-free, and they're so filling. Serve them with rice and you don't even kind of have to worry about gluten in there, and there's loads of protein if you're using chickpeas, for example. So I just say keep experimenting, and then it does just become second nature, because I'm not gluten-free, but probably like 80-90% of what I eat is gluten-free, just because that's how I choose to cook and I choose to eat. So once you kind of keep going, it does just become something you do without thinking, and it won't feel like a big dread, I guess, to cook dinner.
Yeah, it is. It's such a kind of relearning the skill of cooking, isn't it? I remember when I turned vegan, I had that. Irina, what about you?
I was, thinking. I think, for men, it's very important that dish has a, amount of protein, because I cook a lot to my husband, and he always asks if it is a protein dish or not. So if you want to make your non-vegan husband vegan, like I made with mine, I think smoked element is very important. I have always in my fridge smoked tofu. It can stand in the fridge for months and months, I don't know, 2-3 months, and nothing happened to it. So I cut it very thin pieces and make like a bacon out of it and put it anywhere. You can do, this like beef stroganoff, you can do eringi mushroom stroganoff, and on top you put a little bit of this tofu bacon. You can make pasta like with it. So I think for men, if you want your man to be vegan and also gluten-free, I think smoked tofu is a nice thing to make veganism attractive.
Well, as a vegan man, I'm very, very happy with sprouted mung beans. But sure, Bettina, what about you?
I think a good way of figuring things out is to look at sort of original meals, or sort of think themes. So if you go like sort of down the Mexican theme, then you've got like rice, beans, guacamole, salsas, and that's sort of naturally gluten-free. If you go sort of Southeast Asian or sort of Indian, then there's curries and dals and rice and potato dishes. Those are naturally gluten-free. So you can sort of sit down and do a little brainstorm with yourself. If we go down sort of the Middle Eastern route, there's the baba ganoushs and the hummuses and butter beans and falafels. So you can sort of brainstorm with yourself in terms of different types of cuisine that you like, and all of the sudden you've got lots of different options that are completely naturally free from gluten and happen to be vegan and are absolutely delicious.
I think you're so right that sometimes I find I have no inspiration. I'm kind of like, when I think I've got to cook a gluten-free meal, I just imagine a sort of a cup of rice flour, because I'm sort of thinking more about the gluten thing than actually what do I want to eat tonight. You're absolutely right. Okay, well, we've reached that point in the podcast where we ask the eternal question. Yes, what do you do with tofu? I love this question. I never tire of this question. Obviously, or tempeh, because I just bloomin' love the stuff. It's my absolute favorite. Irina, let's start with you. Although you've already answered this question in previous podcasts, you can have a free pass if you want to.
I love tofu because tofu is a natural ingredient. You can do anything with it.
Yeah.
So for this month, I'm really, I have cravings for seaweed. So I almost every day I was making tofu steaks. You can make it, crunchy and covered with butter, like a tofu and chips, or you can bake it very fast, and make more healthy, not deep fried. So you just marinate seaweed with aminos or soy sauce, a little bit lemon, a little bit onion or garlic powder if you like, some spices, any spices you like this day. Just marinate it so it's become, like more soft texture. Then you cover the tofu and do anything, bake or deep fry. So, and you can make your own tartar sauce for it. So I feel like this way cooking tofu for autumn with a nice forage seaweed, you can do it as well. So very, very fishy tofu.
Nice. I foraged some sea kale last week. It was a very exciting day. I felt really bad because
so you can try to do fish cakes.
I made fish cakes with
tofu fish cakes
with you can buy. There's a company. Is it TKC? I think do a fake fish fillet, a fake kind of cod fillet. It's tremendously good for a fish cake. Amy, what about you? What do you do with tofu? And again, you have a free pass. You've already answered this question before.
No, I went sweet last time with silken tofu, so I'll go savoury this time.
Okay.
I made a really good tofu feta, and it was really delicious, and I need to make it again. And it was just kind of bung it all into a pot and let it sit, and it absorbs all the flavour. And it just, I think it was olive oil, lemon juice, garlic, salt, pepper, some rosemary, maybe some oregano in there, and just kind of emulsify it all, cube up the tofu, chuck it in, and just leave it, and it gets better and better, and the taste was really good. So that's probably one of my favourite things, actually.
Oh, wow. I've got to try that one.
Yeah, it's good. It's in my ebook.
There you go.
A little plug there.
I better go and get your ebook. Jane.
I made tacos. So about traveling around. When I was in Mexico, we did. I used Lanza and Irina flour, which is a corn flour, so it's great. As you say, it's a natural flour, Bettina, but it's actually gluten-free. And I marinated my tofu with all the lovely Mexican spices and chili and habaneros and everything. And then we made a really lovely black bean salsa, guacamole, and we all just had a real big, shredded slaughter, made up we had a big taco feast at home.
Nice.
Which was just really lovely. But it's just infusing the flavour into it, the same as you would anything else. So I love using it. I find it such a versatile ingredient. We had a great fun, big taco-based feast for all the family.
Fabulous. It's worth checking out the Vegan Life podcast on our world tour over the summer. We did South American food, and there was some great stuff going on there. It's worth checking out. Bettina, what about you?
So, I never used to love tofu. I always had sort of a gripe with it.
Well, what I've learned on this podcast is that people can change, Bettina.
I know, people
they can change their minds about a food like tofu or tempeh or anything, really.
I changed my mind when I made my own tofu. It's so easy to do. It's literally so simple, and when you make it and have warm, fresh, homemade tofu, it's like the best thing. All you need to do is just put a little bit of dressing on, which is like tamari based or ginger based, and then it's like still warm from when you've made it, and it just makes all the difference. However, if you don't have time and you can't be bothered, just cook it properly would be my advice. A lot of people do not know how to cook tofu, and that's why it doesn't taste very nice. I mean, fried or oven roasted, like crispy, I'd say is a good way to go if you can't be bothered to go more sort of complex in flavour. But cook your tofu properly, guys. That's the trick. That's the secret.
When you made your tofu, because I am curious, particularly when I thought that there were going to be food shortages about 2 years ago, I bought quite a large sack of soybeans, thinking I'll make my own soy milk and I'll make my own tofu. I can survive this. I also bought 5 kilos of coagulant, not realizing you only needed half a teaspoon per go.
Oh gosh.
Like huge, and it's all gone rock hard now. But my question is, did you use commercially available soy milk, or did you make your own soy milk?
No, so you I used soybeans. So just dried soybeans.
So you did it from soybeans. I got funky soybeans, man. They tasted terrible.
No, once you get your head around it, it's so simple. And then as a coagulant, you can use lemon juice, or you can use something called nigari.
Yeah, that's what I bought 5 kilos of.
Or you can use clean Epsom salts, so 100% Epsom salts, not lavender scented or anything weird like that. But a small amount of that. So all 3 sort of methods work, but it's really simple and actually delicious. So it kind of changed my mind onto going onto the tofu team. Okay,
I need to find some non-funky soybeans.
I have a question.
Yes.
It's like, how firm is it when you make it yourself, Bettina?
So that completely depends on how hard you push it down. So you get these tofu presses. If you're going to make it, don't go sort of, just get I know this is terrible, but get the plastic ones, not the bamboo ones or, artisan-y ones, and they'll last you a lifetime. But it depends on how hard you press it down. But yeah, the silken tofu method, that must be something completely different. I'd be very interested. I'd love to go to Japan and just study it for a few days and go and see how they do it. But it's a simple thing to do at home.
Let's get back to the gluten-free action. Laura says, I've struggled to nail a good gluten-free short crust pastry. Have you got any tips? Now, I know, Irina, you struggled with the puff pastry. What about the short crust?
I struggle with any pastry. That's why in our restaurant we have amazing pastry chef teams that know how to do. But I can give the secret that I found in the kitchen and that I tried at home, and I really love it. You take really good vegan butter. First, like I love the brand Verve. It has all natural ingredients, and sometimes in vegan butters they put not really good ingredients. And you can add nut butter if you are not allergic to nuts. I love the peanut butter crust. It has really nice color. And if you add a coconut sugar to it, the taste is amazing. It's crunchy and it's so good. So I think all the other ingredients is quite simple. Just all-purpose gluten-free flour, or like add a little. Sometimes in the restaurant, I know they add almond flour to it. So I cooked only once because for me it's too difficult. I'm not a chef myself, so baking is not what I do every day. So I think these two advices can be very helpful to make unusual crust.
Nice. Amy?
I don't make pastry that often actually, but I'd say I have had just good results with swapping plain flour for a gluten-free flour, making sure you're using a really good butter, making sure your ingredients are cold, like when you'd make a normal pastry, sorry. And also you can start experimenting with different flours, like buckwheat's really nice. As Irina said, like almond flour or like ground almonds add a really nice texture. Yeah, I don't know if that's super helpful, but off the top of my head, I'd say like keep it quite simple. Maybe don't experiment too much and just make sure your ingredients are at the right temperature, because that can really affect when you're making pastry.
Top tips. Jane, have you had a go at it?
Yeah, I do. In actual fact, I make a claim here. I think that the gluten-free vegan short crust pastry I make, you wouldn't really tell the difference. And I keep it very, very simple. And I know we've got some fabulous gluten-free vegan butters out there, but actually my nanny did all her baking using stalk margarine, which is vegan. So for people who just want
it's still vegan now.
Yeah, my nanny used to bake with stalk margarine because I think the shortage of butter. So literally make sure everything is really cold, make sure your hands are cold, always cold. But I make mine mixing corn flour. I think the problem with gluten-free flours is they have such different mixes in them. And unlike if you buy ordinary flour, or other flours, if you buy sorghum, it's 100% sorghum. When you buy a gluten-free plain flour, it can consist of different quantities of rice, sorghum, or whatever. So what works with one brand of flour doesn't work with another. So a lot of people think they can't do something, and actually the brand of flour they're using might be tripping them up, not their technique. So I think buying a really good brand of gluten-free flour and sticking to it and understanding how that works is good, or blending your own. That's not always possible. But I use a mixture of, I'll give you my recipe actually. I use 50 grams of corn flour, 250 grams gluten-free flour, 1 teaspoon of xanthan, pinch of sea salt, 125 grams of good vegan butter or stalk margarine, 1 large egg replacement. And I tend to use a vegan egg replacement. And then just cold water. Now, you can't tell exactly how much cold water to use because it would depend on the humidity of your kitchen, how cold your stuff is, but just very slowly.
How nervous you are. Yeah.
Exactly. It comes together. And the secret, I think, is getting the really good egg replacement. But, it is just a case of trial and error. And unfortunately, when you're buying a gluten-free flour blend, and it's very difficult to give you the exact quantities of water and stuff, but I think that should come out. I've had great results using that as a basic template, and then just playing roughly with the liquid contents. And I think you get a really good shortcrust pastry. If you want to make it sweet, just add a couple of tablespoons of sugar. I tend not to use more liquid because that will upset the balance, and you can use a vegan parmesan replacement for cheese.
Nice.
So hopefully, good luck.
That was pretty comprehensive. Bettina, do you have anything to add?
I totally agree with Jane. That's so interesting that different brands of flours react differently, and also depending on what country you are. I find this with my book recipes that, you know, some countries just nail it and really succeed, and then it'll be the same recipe but in a different country, and they're like, what is going on? So it's that's an interesting point there, and I totally agree. Yeah, I think a good source of fat mixed well into your flour and the addition of water kind of emulsifies it and makes your pastry nice and light. So also the way that you work your dough makes a difference. But yeah, I'm in agreement with everyone else.
Brilliant.
And I have an idea. Yes. Just want to ask the chefs. I remember we put an applesauce. So if you change, can you replace actually an applesauce instead of water? And it's also can, you know, bind it all very good and the taste amazing. Have you ever tried this? Does it work instead of water to put an applesauce?
Yeah, I have. I've tried it in baking, and I think it can be really successful with cakes, mixtures and things. However, with pastry, it didn't work for me. Other people may have found, but for me with the pastry, I found that because it upset the liquid contents and things, it either made it very hard, and that didn't work. But I found it a fantastic replacement in baking and cakes. Certainly.
Yeah, I've done it. So I thought maybe if you change the water to applesauce, it can make you know, even better effect. Need to experiment on this.
Yeah, just melt a Pritt stick into your mix. You know, good thought. Well, look, Laura, good luck. Let us know how you get on. Final question is from James, who says, as a family, once a month, we make pancakes and really go for it with different fillings, etc. Brilliant. Do your guests have any pancake suggestions, sweet or savoury? Oh, there's a big question. Irina, you were talking about pancakes at the beginning, weren't you? Are you sweet or savoury?
I go for both, but my favorite is my granny's apple pancakes with filling of apples inside. But I love to make, you know, green pancakes, very bright with spinach, any greens that you have at home. Dying rucola can go there. So I love to save all my, you know, greens, parsley, coriander, anything that is dying. I said, oh no, guys, I will do these green pancakes with you, and it's so good. You just add a little bit garlic, and cheese inside, very good. But my favorite is granny's pancakes with apple and cinnamon filling. You put one layer of pancake, then you add a little bit of, you know, mixture of grated apples with sugar, cinnamon, or like any sweetener. I use inulin, and it's so good. Children love it. It's like big pancakes, so nice for Sunday brunch with family.
Nice. With your spinachy idea, could you say use a 3-meter long butternut squash plant? Asking for friends.
It can be. Just add garlic.
You just add garlic. Sure. Bettina, are you sweet or salty?
Sweet or salty? I'm more savoury than sweet, but I'd say when it comes to pancakes, I like both.
Yeah,
maybe have the savoury first and then have the sweet for dessert. Sure. How about that?
Just keep them coming. That's the thing with pancakes. And what kind of fillings do you enjoy?
I like to keep it quite simple. So maple syrup, something that's creamy. It could be cashew cream, almond cream, or a dollop of coconut yogurt, anything that's in season. So what are we now? We're in October, so we'd be coming into sort of pear and apple season. So anything like that warmed up with a pinch of cinnamon will be amazing. Or warmed berries works really well as well. Yeah. In terms of savory, I think a dollop of something is always good, like a butterbean.
I'm big on dollops.
Butterbean hummus or anything like that is great, with a bit of crunch and steamed veg, and then a drizzle of tahini or a dressing or something like that on top, or anything roasted veggies. Nice. Are always great.
Jane, what about you?
I understand. I love pancakes with. I've just done one with a really boozy apricot. Just stewed some apricots in, lots of apricot brandy, and
nice.
serve them to guests with a lovely coconut cream or something. So that's really delicious. I can sound like an alky compared to the rest of your healthy food.
No, it's fine. This is a safe space.
Lots of stir and apricot brandy to go over apricots, really, which was really lovely, delicious, and serving to people after dinner. It's great because you can make the pancakes before. We're also a big fan of garlicky mushroom things in this house, so any pancake rolled with garlic mushrooms and some lovely crispy shallot or something on top is a big favourite. But I have to be honest, if I fed my family pancakes forever, they would be happy on a diet of pancakes. So it seems to be a favourite food.
Yeah, no one's ever said, "Oh, that's enough pancakes." Amy, sweet or salty?
I would say I'm team both. Have savoury for mains and then have the sweet one for dessert. So savoury, I'd probably go for like a chickpea based pancake with loads of like nutritional yeast in there, and then have some, like, as Jane was saying, like garlicky mushrooms, tomatoes, maybe some kale on there, and like some tahini or hummus as well, something creamy. And then sweet, I really love my chunky monkey pancakes, and they're just like you make them in the blender, so just chuck in oats and all your other ingredients, blend up, then add bits of banana, peanut butter and chocolate, and then fry them off, and then the chocolate's all melty and the banana caramelizes, and that's really good. And if you want to go all out, you can add some vanilla ice cream on there.
Yes, I want to go all out. Yes, of course I do.
Yeah.
And then the squirty cream straight in the mouth. Thank you. I know how this works. I'm not wet behind the ears. Very good. Well, I'm going to give it to sorry?
I said you met my children.
Yeah, I am your children. Yeah. Well, I'm going to give it to Irina's grandmother. I think that I'm calling it for the sweet pancakes. Come on. You can always just have bread or something. Thank you all so much. It's been really, I think, inspiring to hear about the world of gluten-free vegan food, and something that we've been wanting to address for some time. So thank you all hugely. Before you go, tell us where we can find you and your stuff. Amy, let's start with you.
So I'm Nourishing Amy, so nourishing.amy on Instagram, and www.nourishingamy.com is my website.
Perfect. I hear you have some great recipes in your ebooks.
I do.
I hear the tofu feta is fantastic.
It really is.
Yeah. Jane, what about you?
I'm Jane C. Devonshire on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook, and you can find a lot of my recipes on Cookly Bookly or in my books by most places, I think.
There you go. Bettina, what about you?
You can find me on Bettina's Kitchen on Instagram, and my website, and my latest cookbook called Celebrate is out now. Plant-based recipes for every occasion. So Halloween's coming up and Christmas, so there's some good options there that are also gluten-free.
I'm trying to think of an occasion that you haven't thought of. What about you? You've spent the last 25 years of your life fostering an orphaned elephant, and you've finally released it back into the wild, and you're crying happy tears because the elephant is free now and doesn't need you anymore. But obviously your heart is going out into the savannah with the elephant. Have you got a celebration recipe for that?
Sprinkle cake. I mean, of course.
Of course, I feel so stupid now.
A sprinkle, sprinkle cake.
Sprinkle. Who doesn't love
Makes
sprinkle cake?
anyone happy. It's just a cake with lots of icing and a bucket load of sprinkles.
And now I'm seeing
colours.
a happy elephant sprinkling with its trunk the sprinkles. Irina, what about you?
So you can find us in Instagram, Holy Carrot Restaurant. You can Google us for address, and it's a lot of. Please follow us because it's a lot of interesting things going on soon. Launch of afternoon tea, really beautiful, with Amelia Windsor. We opening a bar in late November named Holy Bar, and I think it's the only one champagne bar in London that serves vegan food, and we make it really beautiful. So we are waiting for everyone to visit us.
That's a stupendous idea. I'll wait for my invite.
Yeah, like you're all invited. Bettina already tried our food.
I have,
but we wait for her to visit and to try. So I think I will be happy to invite all of you to try all the new things, Wellington and everything, and all of our dishes are gluten-free.
Nice.
I think I'm very happy to invite you all to visit the restaurant whenever you have time. So
stupendous. I think I'll be free. That's it for the podcast for this week. We'll be back next week. In the meantime, don't forget you can buy Vegan Life magazine in a shop, or you can go to veganlifemag.com. It's podcast@veganlifemag.com. If you've got any questions about food, we will pass them on to the best chef to answer the question. And don't forget there's an app for the magazine too, which I did download this week, finally, after 30 weeks of this podcast. I mean, I haven't opened it, but I did download it, and that's progress. We're veganlife_podcast on Instagram, and if you would subscribe and share and maybe leave us a review, that would have more of an impact than you could possibly imagine. It's an algorithm thing. I don't know how it works, but it is important. In the meantime, from me, Jake Gap, thanks for listening and goodbye.
This has been a Swanburst Media production.